Ja, alle sammen? Hallo, hallo, hallo. Kan alle sammen komme inn i lokalet her sånn og sette seg ned? Og alle som ønsker å ha noe i glasset har også fått det. Det er hyggelig å se. Velkommen skal dere være. Mitt navn er Carl Fredrik Stenstrøm, og jeg er leder av den norske bransjeforeningen for Onlinespill. Og før jeg begynner, noen praktiske ting. Det er ett toalett. Og det er inn døra der sånn, til høyre. Så vær rask når du er der inne. Ikke noe sånne lange... Og det er et flott bad, så det er fristende å slappe av litt. Men, og ikke minst så er det en seng på veien der sånn, som det er enda mer fristende for slitne kropper å legge seg i. Det skal jeg ikke blande meg opp i, men toalettet det må vi være raske på. Ok, det var det praktiske. Det blir etter det faglige her sånn, så blir det kos og mingling. Vi får servert sushi fra noen av Norges beste sushikokker, så det er bare å glede seg. Så og vi er her sånn til sånn cirka klokka 9 i kveld, for de som ønsker å være så lenge, og så blir det å mingle sånn som man gjør under Arendalsuka. Anyway, we are here now today because there are great things going on in Finland at the moment. From a Norwegian perspective, in 2017, the monopoly chose to put 3 betting companies in together to one company. Rai, Fintoto, and Veikkaus. Slot machines, the horse racing, and the lottery and sports betting company into one company. And as most of you probably know now, there's a lot going on in Finland towards a re-regulation. But the details of that, I'm not going to talk about that because we have an expert with us. And that is Mika Kuismanen. And he is the General Secretary of the trade body in Finland. And the name of the organization, and everyone's going to say after me, is Raha Peli Ali. R-U. Raha Peli Ali. Okay. No! Oh! Unbelievable. Okay, Mika, come up. Take the stage. The floor is yours. Mika will talk about Finland for like 20 to 25 minutes. And after that, there will be a possibility to ask questions. And I'm asking you to ask questions about Finland, not about Norway or Sweden. Sweden we had this morning. But anyway, Mika, thank you for being here.
Thanks for inviting me.
Educate us, please.
Yeah. Raha.
Raha.
Peli.
Peli.
Ala.
Ala.
Yeah. Thanks, Carl Fredrik, inviting me. And I have to apologize first that I'm not able to speak Norwegian. So I'm using English. I think you rather prefer that than Finnish language. Second thing is that I'm in no position and no way gonna tell anything what you should do. It would be a very arrogant way to start. I'm just telling the things which are leading to the change in Finland and why things are changing in Finland. As Carl Fredrik said, I have some 20 to 25 minutes to spend, and I'm going to say something about the background. I'm not going to go through the history of gambling in Finland. Then I say something about the Veikkaus, the current monopoly firm. And then I'm moving to current government program, what it says and what it doesn't say. Then few words about political situation in Finland. But my main point in this presentation are subjectivity versus objectivity. And I think it's an extremely important issue when thinking structural changes and what you should do and who you should believe. Whose numbers are right and who has a kind of monopoly to provide numbers. And at least in case of Finland, this is the thing which has been challenged. And it is a very deep thing, because in northern society, Nordic countries, we have a tendency, and it's a good tendency, to believe that administration and civil servants are using, that they are objective, and they are using proper numbers. But it seems to be that in many cases also the administration are actually looking from very subjective point of view some issues. So in other words, they do have an agenda. They are not an operators which are free of having any agenda. Then I speak a bit of numbers and then tell something how things will most likely go forward in Finland. So starting from 10 years, back to 10 years, there's been an increasing tendency in Finland of questioning the monopoly of Veikkaus. In the 8 years ago, just before the then parliamentary election, there was a discussion about changes, but it didn't lead basically to anything. But the discussion continued, and it's not only a question about gambling. In our society, it's been a question of other monopolies also. Alcohol monopoly, how pharmaceutical industry is organized, and then of course the gambling. But the game changed approximately 1.5 years ago, 1 year or 1.5 years ago, when the current monopoly firm, Veikkaus, actually came out and said that current online monopoly is unsustainable. We should, as a society, think that could this industry be handled in a better way? Not saying that we should go to the license system or any other specific system, but the point was that the current monopoly is not working anymore. It's working in the way that it has been designed to work, and the other thing is that those social policy and social political aspects and aspirations they're heading we are not fulfilling those anymore. Channelization rate has gone down, it's approximately 50%. So how can you justify, from social political point of view, a monopoly system which actually is failing in social politics? So you are in a dead loop there. The unfortunate thing from Veikkaus' point of view is that they came out approximately 10 years too late. Because we have lost, as a society, we have lost customers. They are moved outside. The Veikkaus, they probably moved to Curaçao firms. And even whatever you do, you probably don't get all of those players back anymore. Even you do whatever kind of changes. Then the monopoly, the Veikkaus. I think this is, in our society, there's a bit of sad story. And what I mean is that in a civilized society, one shouldn't allow, and these kind of things shouldn't happen. This is an example of certain kind of corporatism. And in some way, it's been a sign of also some kind of corruption. And what I mean by this is that the whole Finnish political system, parties, beneficiaries, and so on, they've been intertangled with Veikkaus. So there are 10 to 11 organizations in Finland who are supervising Veikkaus. So one company and 10 to 11 organizations supervising one company. So you can logically think immediately that nobody's supervising the company. You don't know what the right hand is doing, left hand is not knowing what the right hand is doing. On top of that, those institutions are employed by politicians, so they get beneficiaries. They all are involved in this system. So there are no kind of motivation to question the system because you are a beneficiary from a monopoly company. But people started to think that, no, this doesn't make sense. You have a lower channelization rate and the regulatory system is very, very complicated, and also there's this conflict of interest. Those organizations who are very much against of gambling in any way are actually an organization which benefit from gambling as a beneficiaries. So there are many ways which led to public opinion question that could we actually arrange and could we handle this thing more rationally? And this has actually led to the case that I would say all political parties are now, probably Christian Democrats, they are in the government, the current government, and they actually are accepting this reform. But I think in deep roots they are against of gambling and alcohol and all these kind of non-normal goods anyway. But all parties are thinking that we should actually reform. So this, I want to stress that even this government won't survive and we would get another coalition government, this reform won't be stopped. It will go forward because SDP, Social Democrats, Centre Party, Moderates, everyone is now seeing that the current monopoly is not working anymore. So that has led that in the current government program, there is in black and white, there's a statement that Finland will move to the license system at the latest of beginning of January 26. So it's in the government program. It will go forward. And some people have speculated or heard that there are some other lines, that something else could happen. There are no other lines. It's politically, there is a consensus that the days of monopoly online monopoly is over. It's not dependable on government coalition. Whatever parties will be in the government, this reform will go forward. So it's not a speculative issue. But one thing which is a speculative issue is that the political situation in Finland is not very stable. We have a new government, right-wing government, and the first time in our history there are right-wing populist party, Finns party, in the government, and this whole summer has been spent of discussion on racism in Finland, because some of the ministers from the Finns party have written many years ago things that they shouldn't have written, and I think it's a very good that in our society we go forward and we really speak about it. This and that leads that there is a likelihood, small likelihood, that the current government need to resign. But what that means for the gambling reform, it only means that it might be postponed for a year or half a year. But it won't. We don't take it away, or the next government won't take it away. But I think what we really have learned in our case, and as a general, and I think it's a big harm for our administration and our, at least some part of civil servants, concerning this, what I mean, this objectivity, is that clearly some civil servants, some departments, ministry, for example, Ministry of Social Health and Wealth, they have had their own agenda. They have had an agenda that monopoly is better than any other way to form. I can understand that, but it's not a good administration. That administration and civil servants have an agenda. When they have agenda, it's same as me as a lobby. I have agenda. But general public, they need to trust someone. Someone has to be objective in a society. And like in Finland in this case, their objectivity has been questioned, it has actually ruined their position in the whole area. As an example, they have actually, I don't know, but my claim is that on purpose, they have utilized wrong numbers provided by Institute of Health and Wealth. And this is being fed up to the society concerning how many people gamble, what is the channelization rate, so on and so forth. Then came another institute, government institution, and they questioned, no, these numbers cannot be right. And those numbers were studied again, and it came out that the numbers administrations being provided were totally wrong. So it was actually a humiliating effect to the whole, their cause. They think they are in a good cause and writing for good things, but that was just by click demolished. And now it's very hard for them to gain the reputation again. The second thing relates to numbers, or also to numbers, that and if I have understood correctly, I'm sorry if my statement is wrong, but how to define channelization rate? What you take within that measure? Of course, you get a high channelization rate if you take the usual sports betting, casino, bingo, poker. But if you add there games which are not online games, if you add different kind of scratch card, you add lotteries, whatever. Of course, you get even you have a license system or a monopoly system. By definition, it's a math. You get a high channelization rate. But in Finland, at least, we've been discussing hard and saying that no, all parties have to be clear, and they have to justify what measure they are using and why they are using this measure. And I cannot give any advice, but I say that I think the media and whoever is involved in this should be and should challenge those sources who provide unspecified numbers. And especially one should challenge the administration, current monopoly, or whoever is providing the numbers, if they are not defined and calculated on the right basis. So what are the next steps in Finland? So we don't have not yet details of the current system. We are just starting to build. The legislation will start now in probably a month's time, and but what is clear, as I said earlier, that we will now, as a society, go forward with the new system. Our target, and it is said in the government program that we are heading towards license system, And now comes the important issue. So this binary decision has been made, but that's an easy decision. It's not easy then to define the new law, what it's inside. There comes lots of different points. What is our stance on marketing, sponsoring, advertisement, how you treat gambling harms, gambling problems, how that would be reflected in the new system. But here is I think the second important point, at least what I think is that I've always wondered in this business, this industry, why people have so strong views about license system or so strong views about monopoly. They are just structural arrangement. I suppose the main goal is to build a system which is attractable for players, companies, and society. And I suppose the main goal is to build a system which is the best to prevent gambling harms. And we have a strong empirical evidence from different countries that well-regulated license system is more efficient. It leads to the share of people having gambling problems are lower in a well-regulated license system than in not well-regulated monopoly. And that's been exactly the case in Finland. As I said earlier, the current monopoly is not actually being supervised. They have been in a very, and I understand why, but they have been very provocative in their advertisement. Because, why? There's no risk. When you have a monopoly, you can almost do whatever you want. There's nobody who comes and says to you, no, I'll take the license off. But when you have a properly well-regulated license system, there's always a threat. Okay, if you don't obey, if you behave badly, we take the license away. So this system, because gambling is not a normal good, we have to admit within the business that gambling do cause harms, and you have to regulate it, but then you have to regulate it properly, and you have to have a strong principal agent framework. And by definition, the monopoly is not providing a principal agent framework. You can only have it when you regulate the system properly. We will most likely, as always in case of Finland, we will follow what people have done in Sweden, in Denmark, and that's something very good thing to do, because then we have a chance of picking the best parts there, but leaving the parts which are not working beside. Personally, I'm not a fan of copying a Swedish system or Danish system. We should actually make a Finnish system which suits the Finnish society, takes our structures into account, and works well in our society. The second thing, and I don't know how it is in here in Norway, but in Finland there's been also I think, conflict of good administration, and what we need to change is that Ministry of Interior has been a ministry which has written the Lottery Act. But same ministry is also regulating and supervising. That is something which shouldn't be allowed in any Western society. There's a clear conflict of interest. It should be that law is written in different ministry, and then different people are supervising. And this is the thing where I really like to see that things will change in Finland. Of course, there are people in Finland who would say that this whole business should be stopped. But you cannot stop people enjoying. It's in the nature. You cannot stop people drinking alcohol. You are drinking alcohol here, quite many actually, proper Norwegians. And there are no way of having a prohibition. And we cannot go back to or we cannot create a society which reflects to North Korea, which is closed. So there's always going to be unfortunate cases, but point is that to create a system, at least we try to Finland create a system which minimizes those unharmful cases. And as I said, the combination, which is, I believe, as a strong market believer, I believe that the best solution comes when it's good for the individuals, it's good for the companies, and it's good for the society. And you just have to find some kind of convex combination from those three aspects. And then the system leads to the better than it is now. I think I spent my time, so I'm ready for the questions, and hopefully I can answer them.
Thank you very much, Mika. And I think we're going to jump straight into some questions. I'm sure we have some questions here in the audience. Oh, there you go. You take the lawyer first.
For once, the lawyers first. You're kind of preaching to the preacher from my perspective, but this conflict of interest issue that you're raising, it's in the legal literature, is all over the place. It's been a topic for many, many years. Why this sudden awakening in Finland?
I would say that actually this conflict of interest, we don't have any other industry in Finland where it's this clear. If you look, for example, supervising the banking, financial supervising, it's a different ministry which writes the law and different organization which is supervising and regulating. So gambling has been a exception for it, and it's been a very clear exception that you basically, those people who has written the law are just sitting in the same, more or less the same department than the police board. So it doesn't make sense in any way.
I agree, but why did the sentiment change that fast?
I think it has come with this, or I'm sure that it has come with this possible new system. When we have had the monopoly system, nobody has questioned it. It's been a one operator in mainland Finland, Veikkaus. So it hasn't been a topic.
Thank you. My name is Himanshu. I'm a member of parliament. Unfortunately, I missed the beginning of your seminar, but what you spoke about in the end really caught my attention, because no matter what other debate we have, whether it's, should taxes go up or down, or should we allow private healthcare providers, it's sort of an even debate field. You can be for, you can be against, but we respect each other. But when it comes to this subject, it seems like the play field is not even. All methods are allowed to discredit those who are for a license model, and we also see the proposals from the government blocking web pages, banning famous people to sort of be ambassadors for companies. So it seems like it's David versus Goliath fight in a way. So what would be your, and since you touched upon that at the end of your lecture, what would your advice be for those who support a license model to go about when you sort of feel meet an unproportional a fight from those who don't want to change in the current system?
That's a very good question and difficult to answer. But first of all, I think, and this is again personal opinion, that some of the people who have kind of speaking for the license system have been a bit arrogant, have been and have neglected the problems in gambling. They haven't kind of taken into account that gambling is not a normal good, and so that creates a certain kind of, at least in Finland, it's been creating a certain kind of atmosphere that those people don't take social political issues seriously. And a country like Finland is that the first mistake you do, if you start to demand something not touching the problems and the social political issues, if you are going in alcohol or whatever and leave those issues beside, it's almost by definition you're going to lose your fight. You need to take these bad things seriously and argue rationally that what you are aiming and what you should do that you would minimize those problems, and then compare kind of analytically different regimes and use coherent numbers. I just think that's the best way to go forward, because if you use loose arguments, somebody will pick them up anyway and then shoot you.
Anyone else? I have a question for you, Mika. And there will be quite some change in 2024 for the organizations receiving money from Veikkaus, right? Can you tell us a little bit about the process behind that and what's going to happen?
Yeah, good question. As I said, many of those organizations being direct beneficiaries from the monopoly company. This is the one issue which has actually, or one thing which has led to the more general discussion about the corporatism and also some kind of corporatism, that corruption, that what is the rationale behind beneficiaries? Who decide who gets money from the monopoly, and who decides how many years they have received monopoly? We have been a beneficiary which has a couple of organizations which don't have any other finance than money from the current monopoly, and it has stayed more than 50 years. So one can ask that is that the good governance? Is that rational? So people start to think that, and that led to the discussion that even we don't move, if there would be a case that Finland wouldn't move to the license system, the beneficiary system is changing from the beginning of 24. So there are not anymore direct transfers from Veikkaus. All Veikkaus money will go to the government budget, and then by parliamentary process it will be then distributed to possible beneficiaries. That's what is going to change from the beginning of 24.
Did that change the debate from the beneficiaries?
It did, because now some beneficiaries naturally will lose. And it has also, well, probably shouldn't use it's funny, but it's somehow strange to see that some organization which has been very strongly against of getting rid of monopoly are now flirting with license system. So probably they try to look the ways how they get money from a different kind of a regime. And this is especially with some social policy institutions, but I think the main issue is the Finnish sport industry and sports organization. It's no secret that Veikkaus, the current monopoly, has bought a sports company, sports associations, silent in a very low money. And there is a growing need or growing aspire from those organizations that they would actually go to the market and price themselves, which is not, at the moment, it's impossible.
And any more questions? Just, yeah. Hold on still. The ladies first.
Thank you. My name is Marlena and I work as a political advisor in Octus. We work to reduce and prevent gambling-related harm. And you said that you don't want to copy the Danish or Swedish system. I just wondered, what exactly do you not want to copy in a Finnish system? What do you want to change from the Swedish and Danish system?
Yeah. We all, or probably all, know that that in Sweden, for example, the marketing advertisement was a bit of overloaded and not that. I would say that probably not that. Let's say in a way straightly that not all companies behave very civilized way in there. So there must be a better understanding, better rules how in the beginning companies behave, what is allowed, what is not allowed, who you should target, in what kind of situation you are able to market, and what the marketing is look like. That it must be a decent, not flashing, attractive kind of things. All these aspects are very important. And in case of Denmark, okay, it's delayed change in Denmark, but this is a package. We also need to look bonus system. It's I think one of the most stupid thing would be to get rid of the bonus system. Because if you get rid of the bonus system, you lose the incentive to play with the regulated markets. But of course, you have a different kind of bonus systems. That some bonus systems are functioning more better than the others. Then it's a taxation. What is the tax rate? If you let taxation to be too high, like in Denmark, it's now 29. Most likely, if you, in the beginning, put a tax of 29, that won't attract companies to the market, and that would lead again a lower generalization rate. There is a lots of issues related to sponsorships issues. All these must be thought very carefully.
Sorry, I just had a follow-up question from Carl Fredrik, because you're talking about the income to Finland. So what is the sum of money the Finnish government or you expect to be added to the Finnish state budget from the newly regulated market?
it was discussed, and it is said that and I think it's a right way to go, that there are no monetary targets. The government hasn't put any monetary target to this change, and I think it's a very wise thing to do, because if you start from, as I said earlier, if you start discussion from the money point of view, then we will get a lot of institutions who is claiming that everything is just, we just do everything with the money. But I'm not going to tell you the numbers, the Finnish numbers, but also it's not clear that will the total sum in our society, it will increase, but how much it will increase? Because when you have a government monopoly, it's not only the lottery tax which brings money to the society. It's also that the monopoly is transforming them from their balance sheet money to government. And of course, when the part of the monopoly is taken away, it's going to be in a competitive market, then that firm is not transforming any money from its balance sheet to government anymore. But of course, on opposite, you get all the license holders will contribute to the tax sum in Finland, and you have to calculate the net of these. So a bit repeated, no monetary target has been issued, but it will widen the sources, especially the tax revenue sources.
Do you have one last question, maybe? Here you go. Stian back here.
Thank you. I wondered, in what way has the pressure from the EU influenced the decision to move towards the license model, and what are the main arguments that changed the previous opposition to move towards the license model?
Yeah, the EU is more or less clear. The EU at current times, they are washing their hands out of the gambling. It's just a national decision. I don't know if it's right or wrong. I don't take any view on that. But the EU aspect is here. We have had a permission to run monopoly because of social policy reason. And it's been argued that Finland could sustain monopoly because it is a best way to prevent gambling harms. But now, when everybody knows the numbers, the channelization rate is in online gambling in Finland is approximately 50%. So that leads automatically to the case that it is clear that the current system has failed in this aspect. So that's all about the EU. And talking about the corporatism, Veikkaus has, as I said, been involved many politicians under their umbrella. But when Veikkaus came out and said that there is no role for online monopoly, it's very difficult for a politician anymore to say that, no, yeah, I'm supporting monopoly. That is so rude and so simple, but that's the answer to your question.
And I guess that was actually happened in Sweden as well back in 2017, when the CEOs of Svenska Spel and ATG stepped forward and stated the same words as Mr. Olle Saarikoski from Veikkaus said late 2022, right?
Mm.
Do you have one more question? Because now we have the food here, and I think it looks delicious. But one last thing, Mika, and I understand you were at the Finnish Arendalsuka this summer,
Yeah,
right?
yes, that's true.
And
Finnish Arendalsuka.
yeah, so
Yeah.
yeah, the name of that? What is the name?
Suomi Arena.
Oh, Suomi Arena. There you go. And I understand that you were standing there together with Veikkaus, right?
Absolutely. I think I'm very happy that we have I would say, extremely good cooperation as an association with Veikkaus and with PAF. We arrange happenings, events together. We have, in many aspects, I would say, approximately probably 90% of the issues we have the same agenda as Veikkaus. We work together. We try to influence together that the new law is good, good for everyone's point of view. And we meet and discuss. And been in a newspaper last week. I was in a journal with Olli Sarekoski in a television with Veikkaus people. And yeah, I'm happy about the cooperation, and it's open to both sides.
That sounds really good, I would say. And would you see that a year or two ago?
Absolutely. I don't see anything why it would change. Because what it means that we're going to have two Veikkaus. The offline monopoly Veikkaus, and then we will have a competitive online Veikkaus. And if online Veikkaus will get the license, it will be in exactly the same position as any other firm. So they are facing the same legislation, they're facing the same rules, same problems, same advantages. So it would be pretty strange if ours or their agenda would differ.
Okay, thank you very much for coming to Norway, Mika.
It's always a pleasure.
I'm sure we'll have you back here again.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm waiting for it.
Big hand, people.
Thanks.
Nå det bare å ta tak i Mika for de som ønsker å snakke med han på tomannshånd. Ellers det bare å forsyne seg med mat og drikke og kose seg og mingle og nyte kvelden. Takk for oss.